Barak Yahweh, Barak Yahweh Shah, Yahweh Bahashem, Yahweh Shah, Bahashem, Krahak Adash. All praises, honor, glory, love, respect, faith, and power, and trust, and all credit to my Heavenly Father, Yahweh, and my Heavenly Big Brother, Yahweh Shah. Thank you so much for what you've done, what you're doing, and what you're going to do. Double honors to the apostles and elders and bishops of GMS, Great Millstone, who I learned from, and all the men scattered all over the world, teaching His truth and none but the truth in the name, spirit, and the power of Yahweh Bashem Shah. Trying to put a spiritual bug in you Hebrew Israelites' ears, you so-called blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, Seminole Indians, and you speckled birds. And what is a speckled bird? That'd be a Hebrew Israelite that look like some of the heathen nations, like for example, a Hebrew Israelite that look like a so-called white person, so-called Chinese person, etc., etc. Got some videos lined up on this crisis going on with the fuel, and they talking about oil shortage. Anyway, I'm gonna play these videos. I'm gonna get into the scripture, my best ability, say whatever God say through spirit and power, Yahweh by Shema Shah, the Holy Spirit of Krahak Radash, Lord wanna be on me. Let's get it.
The world is staring at a full-blown energy emergency. The International Energy Agency has now issued its sharpest warning yet. Global oil stockpiles are depleting rapidly, and at the current rate, the world may just have 5 weeks of accessible commercial supplies left. The West Asian war continues to choke crucial shipping routes through the Strait of Hormuz. The global energy system is beginning to show signs of severe stress now. The aftershocks are spilling onto the streets. In Kenya, anger over soaring fuel prices has erupted into deadly protests. 4 people were killed after demonstrations broke out across multiple towns following sharp hikes in retail fuel prices. A nationwide public transport strike paralyzed commuter movement, leaving thousands stranded. Kenya now has suspended the strike to hold negotiations between the government and stakeholders. Kenya, remember, has almost no proven domestic oil reserves, and they depend heavily on imported fuel from West Asia. The African country is now feeling the direct impact of the Iran war. With no major refining capacity of its own, the country has become extremely exposed to global supply shocks. Meanwhile, in Bolivia, the energy crisis has turned into a political firestorm. Riot police clashed with thousands of protesters, demanding the resignation of President Rodrigo Paz. Farmers, miners, teachers, indigenous groups and labor unions have all blocked highways into La Paz, bringing supplies to a standstill. The government, remember, had removed long-standing fuel subsidies in an attempt to rescue the economy. But the move also sent fuel prices soaring. And now, demonstrators are demanding wage hikes, economic stability, and a rollback of privatization policies as the country struggles with shortages and a deepening cost of living crisis. The bigger picture is even more alarming. The IEA now says that global oil supply will fall short of demand this year. Now, if this happens, then it will be a dramatic reversal from its earlier forecast of a surplus. Global oil inventories, remember, fell by a record 246 million barrels in just March and April. The IEA, in response, has coordinated the largest strategic reserve release in history. About 400 million barrels were released to try and calm the markets. The agency now estimates that the war could wipe out nearly 3.9 million barrels of global daily supply through 2026. The economic damage has been escalating rapidly as well. According to media agency Reuters analysis, companies across America and Europe and Asia have already lost an estimated $25 billion due to the conflict. Soaring energy prices, disrupted shipping lanes, higher insurance costs, and fractured supply chains are all hitting industries across the board. And then there is the question of reserves. Who can survive this crisis and who cannot? At the most vulnerable end is Morocco, which holds the lowest proven oil reserves in Africa with just 684,000 barrels. South Africa has negligible crude reserves, while Ethiopia, Rwanda, Tanzania, and Kenya all have little to no strategic buffer against a prolonged supply shock. Cuba has already announced that it has completely run out of diesel and fuel oil. The country has pushed its power grid to the edge of collapse. Parts of the island are now enduring blackouts lasting up to 22 hours a day. Countries like Myanmar, Vietnam, and the Philippines are also considered highly exposed, with just about a month of oil storage available if the shipments through Hormuz remain blocked. But at the other end of the spectrum stands China, with a massive 1.3 billion barrel strategic petroleum reserve. China is believed to have the strongest buffer against a global oil shock, capable of withstanding up to 6 to 7 months of disrupted imports. Goldman Sachs now warns that
It doesn't mean they're going to keep producing and doing whatever. I mean, like, shit. They're going to pretty much have to stop at some point. And if they stop at some point when it comes to producing and shipping the goods to all over the world, especially to America, then shit, you got problems. I mean, it's gonna go down, man. It's gonna happen. Shit. What is this? Warning. Recession signs. Oh, shit. I'll go ahead and get it. While I'm doing videos, I'm adding new videos in. Alarming rate, blah blah blah. U.S. economy worsens. I'll get that too, because I want to do another video about the economy, mostly the U.S. economy. But anyway, what I about to say? I about to say something else. Yeah, all the world needs is America to go through, the people to react just like these other countries are doing. The citizens are reacting that way. All we need is these damn Americans, these Babylonians, to react the same way. Anyway, this video about done is over. Let me get to the next one. What is about Australia farming crisis deepens.
And Australia's wheat belt is sending a warning signal to global food markets.
And analysts warn that Australia, which is the world's third largest wheat exporter, could ship up to 10 million tons less wheat this season. Here's a report on how a geopolitical conflict is now spilling into agriculture and global food security. Take a look.
Australia's wheat farmers are cutting back production as the Iran war disrupts global fuel and fertilizer supplies. Farmers across key growing regions are planting less wheat, using less fertilizer, and shifting to lower cost fodder crops as input prices surge and rainfall remains below normal.
With the triple whammy of weather, fuel and fertiliser, I think we're likely to see a drop in production right across Australia. I think everyone will be trying to save their money and put it into, just make sure that they can get through to the other end and get to next year. And
Australia is the world's third largest wheat exporter, but analysts now warn the country could ship up to 10 million tons less wheat in the coming season. That would remove nearly 5% of global wheat exports from the market. The biggest concern for Australia's grain sector is fertilizer availability. The country imports more than half of its nitrogen fertilizer needs from the Gulf, making it heavily exposed to supply disruptions linked to the Iran conflict. The fall in Australian output is also likely to push global wheat prices higher, especially at a time when food supply chains are already under pressure from climate-related disruptions. For many Australian farmers, the current season is becoming a battle to preserve cash flow rather than maximize production. Some growers are reducing fertilizer use by half, while others are planting crops mainly for livestock feed instead of commercial grain sales.
I think it's inevitable that if we don't have enough fertiliser, we're going to have lower production, and if it's dry, so we're going to have lower production as well. So I think every indicator is pointing towards lower production.
The concern is now shifting beyond this year's harvest. Farmers say prolonged supply disruptions and rising costs could reduce planting even further in 2027, increasing pressure on global food markets. What began as a shipping disruption is now spreading into agriculture, with consequences that could be felt in food prices and grain supplies worldwide.
So yeah, the lack of diesel is affecting the prices on food and fertilizer and all that shit. Yeah, man, the Lord is plaguing this world. He's already affecting America. I say good. Let me see. Ezekiel chapter 5 verse 16. When I shall send upon them the evil hours of famine, which shall be for their destruction, and which I will send to destroy you, and will increase the famine upon you, and will break your staff of bread. That's that support. And what's really pushing these tractors and such? Diesel. Like I said, the diesel shortage. When they shortage on diesel, people gonna be short on food, fertilizer, and all that stuff. Yeah, because what's using diesel is not just the tractors, but ships, because they got to ship that stuff out. And trains, they got to deliver stuff on the land too, just like semi trucks. But either way, it's a domino effect, and everybody gonna be affected by this shit. So hey man, it's best for you to seek the Lord and repent, try to do the best you can do, because that's Yahweh Shema Shah is the only way for you Israelites, you so-called blacks, Latinos, Hispanics, Native Americans, Seminole Indians, and you speckled birds that look like the heathens. Let's get to the next video.
My friends, welcome. The well-oiled machine of American agriculture may soon be grinding to a halt. This because of a lack of lubrication. Let's talk about what's going on, what it means for food production, and why this actually may be exactly the crisis the technocrats want in order to usher in their new era of fake food and agriculture 4.0.
And the chip implant too. Yeah, because this all roads leading to that chip implant, the mark of the beast.
I'm Christian, and you can find me at unshadowed.org. And in March, when the Strait of Hormuz closed, the Independent Lubricant Manufacturers Association, or ILMA, immediately raised their hand and said, hey, this is a huge problem. In fact, they wrote to the Department of Energy and asked permission to invoke force majeure and cancel out any orders that were not absolutely critical, and then told the DOE that you need to work with the rest of the federal government to figure out how a lubrication shortage would affect critical U.S. industries and infrastructure, including transportation, agriculture, defense, and industrial manufacturing. Now, this is because, when you think about it, any machine that has moving parts generally requires some lubrication. This means if you don't have gear oil, all of your mining shuts down. If you don't have hydraulic oil, all of your industrial manufacturing shuts down. If you don't have motor oil, all of your cars and trucking and, yes, on-farm equipment shuts down. So this is why they immediately, in March, they wasted no time in saying this is a huge deal. That's because the U.S. gets about 44% of specifically of the Group 3 lubrication from the Middle East. And then it's worth noting we also get a chunk of it from South Korea, but their whole pipeline is geared around getting the base oils from the Middle East. And so they're scrambling to find an alternate supplier right now. But we can accurately say that at least 44% of the Group 3 lubricants are completely offline right now. That's why they knew this was a crisis. Now that we're 3 months later, and those shortages have moved down the supply chain long enough to become visible, you may have noticed last week Toyota put out a memo to their dealerships and their authorized service centers saying that, hey, there's no more high-end synthetic motor oil. You're going to need to start stretching what you do have by adding some of the heavier, lower quality stuff. Nissan, a couple days later, followed suit, and they added to that saying, whatever you...
Oh, Mobil 1. Oh, so it's the synthetic oil. Oh, shit. People going to have to be mindful of their sports cars and shit.
Got last year, we'll give you a little more than half of that this year. Quote, bulk...
They souped up rides and such. This is going to be... Hell no, I don't think anybody won't want to ride them bitches anyway. Expensive as premium cars. Yeah.
And packaged genuine Nissan oil supply will be limited to 55% of prior year volumes on a year-over-year basis. So it doesn't really matter what you order or what you need. We're going to give you half of what you got last year, and you're going to make do with it. But all of that was really dwarfed by the scope of the announcement yesterday. Was leaked a memo, an internal memo from the CEO of AutoZone, who says this is a historic event that's taking place right now. There's going to be empty shelves, and people are going to be freaking out when they can't find oil for their machines. Of course, he went on to describe how they'll profit from this, saying, quote,
Yeah, because they're going to sell the arm and a leg for this shit.
We plan to become the go-to solution provider for those met with empty shelves and fear of unknown replacement. We'll provide guidance and supplies to the soon-to-be first-time home oil changers who can no longer spare the increased cost coming to every lube chain. Executives also...
Yeah, I got to change my oil right now. I got ahead of the time I got some oil, but I might need to get some more. Well, you always want to be ahead of the time before it's too late. But it really probably won't matter soon, because hell, I'm hoping we come to the time when we don't have to worry about driving anymore. I'm tired of that shit. I'm tired of driving with all these crazy motherfuckers on the road, man. Shit, either driving too slow or too reckless and fast. I'm tired of it. And then you gotta, of course you're gonna pray on everything you do, but man, you don't know if the wheel might come off and you break your axle or some shit happen, engine breaks down. You don't know. And I don't want to deal with that headache of driving cars anymore. Shit, no. But anyway,
But Shell and Valvoline and O'Reilly have been warning their investors that lubricants would be exploding in price and there would be pressure on synthetic motor oil supply chains. And that's now what we're seeing. There's just none of it left. So where does that affect agriculture? Agriculture is exposed to lubricants in a few different areas, some of
Affect that. That staff of bread gonna be broken.
which you may not have thought of. It's not just oil for tractors, although that's part of it, right? It's the big one that has to be called up front is transportation. The U.S. has a big problem if trucks stop running.
Semis.
Not just food production, although that is also disproportionately affected.
And also trains too, but mostly semis, because they're the ones that really maneuver and have to move here and there.
About 70% of ag freight does use trucks, and so if those stop moving, then the food stops growing. We also use that to move livestock.
But the semi trucks always be the last of everything that pretty much the country relies on. Of all countries rely on semi trucks to haul shit from point A to point all the way to Z, and it's coming to an end. And hell, you know what? If semi trucks, if they're gonna be if semi trucks are starting to, like I say, they're gonna be a shutdown on the semi trucks delivering goods, you might as well say it's a wrap for the passenger vehicles. Your everyday cars and trucks on the road. You might as well just say, fuck that shit. Don't bother going to work because gas probably gonna be too expensive to go to work. And somebody will say, well, you got to go to pay the bills. Nigga, what bills? Get the fuck out of here. And that's why I ain't want to tell my dad shit. Because I was finna to say something someday. Well, I think it was a week ago. But he always got to come with something. And it's like, you can't get these people, you can't get them to see. They see, but they don't believe. I don't know what the fucking deal is with these people. That's why I just don't bother. But they just can't really see how serious it's going to be. Where you ain't going to be able to do shit. Kiss all that shit you think you can do, goodbye. You ain't gonna do shit. Best thing you need to do is seek the Lord and repent, try to do the best you can do, but a lot of these people ain't gonna do it. Anyway.
Around from place to place.
Nobody ain't gonna be able to do shit.
And to move product from
man shall desire going to the city and shall not be able to. You won't be able to do shit.
Farm to the distributor and then to the retail shelves. Also grains go to the drying and then to the grain silos, and there's a whole bunch of product moving, almost 70% of which uses trucking to get moved. Irrigation is another big one. Irrigation districts often use big old diesel engines to run their pumps. Those things are always on during the season and they need service. And so if districts are unable to get the lubricants they need to service those motors and have a problem, then the water cuts off, and obviously without water you're not going to have a crop. The on-farm equipment, beyond tractors, there's also combines and sprayers and loaders.
And then shit. Generators, these big industrial generators that get electricity from. I don't know, is it, yeah, I guess when you got it needs lubrication for your, some oil lubrication for those power plants that's burning off of natural gas. I know diesel, they run off of diesel. Yeah, you gonna need, and they gonna, the bill is gonna be expensive for all that shit. For electric bills I'm talking about. You think electric bill is expensive? Wait till you get a load of what's coming down the pipe. I don't know how I don't know when. Let's say in the next month or two. Shit, it's gonna be expensive, bro. Woo, shit.
All of which need motor oil to keep the motors running, and then hydraulic oil to drive
everything gonna be expensive. Come on now.
PTO and all the attachments and various moving parts. And then post-harvest, there's a lot of equipment used for the drying of grains, the augers and conveyors to move them, the fans, the elevators at the silos. All of these things require maintenance and require lubrication. So a drastic cut like the one we're experiencing right now to Group 3 lubricants is a problem for no single part of it, but I think significantly for food production. This is a problem that was anticipated. In fact, the nice folks at the Good Food Institute pointed out in their 2026 State of the Industry series, speaking to alternative proteins, lab-grown meat, precision fermentation, indoor vertical farming, all of this new fangled nonsense, fake food, as I call it, that supply chain risks are really a great reason to start using these new technologies, this new ag tech, they call it. So
anyway, and get a chip implant. Nigga, no thanks. If you want to watch the rest of the video, they go to title or they go to channel. Let's move on to the next one. More destruction.
In just a matter of weeks, life here in the United States could become more unaffordable. we are going to come from a point of unaffordability to a massive crisis. And I bring this up because it has to do with oil costs and our oil supply. Look at this. It says no deal, no exit. How U.S.-Iran standoff risk a fresh conflict. President Trump issued a warning just the other day that time is of the essence and Iran needs to make a deal immediately. Look at this though.
And how many times he been saying this and nothing happened? It's the same fucking shit. And Iran still got the cards. They got the upper hand, or whatever you want to call it. Anyway.
President Trump says the Iran strike was called off after Gulf allies appealed. What we are hearing is that some of the countries in the...
But it's really, when you talk about war with America and Iran, it's really war on you citizens all over the world because of this. So the elite got an upper hand on you people, and y'all don't even realize it. Yeah.
Region are called...
But then the Lord has an upper hand on the elite and everybody else. Shit, got everybody. So really, yeah. Anyway,
calling President Trump, getting him to not attack Iran. They want things to settle down first. But at the same time, President Trump knows, and many of these other countries know, that the United States is in a position of power today. Does not mean we will be there in the next several years or even the next several months. We have the ability, we have the upper hand. Now, President Trump wants to use it. I want to play something for you, though. Listen to this right here.
The president has exhibited a huge amount of patience here since the ceasefire on April the 8th. And we've tried to work a deal with these guys, and it just doesn't seem possible.
A new opinion piece on how to finish the job in Iran has this, quote, if the regime refuses to capitulate, Trump will have to deploy the full spectrum of U.S. power, end of quote. The U.S. blockade in the Strait of Hormuz has crippled Iran's economy. We know that. In fact, it's so bad that they're having to face shutting in their wells. They can't pump them to keep going. And if you can't take oil out, that increases the danger that you might not be able to use some of those wells again. Early signs of the fuel crisis emerged over the weekend as unemployment and inflation are skyrocketing. It's prompted major discontent among the Iranian citizenry, who have continued to hold protests at this point. We're covering all of the angles on all of this. Retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Darren Gobb will join me in moments. First, though, senior foreign correspondent Trey Yingst is on the ground in Tel Aviv, Israel. Trey.
Harris, good morning. While the region waits to see if the war will resume in the days ahead, diplomatic efforts are playing out. Iran reportedly sent a revised proposal to Pakistani mediators aimed at addressing some of the gaps in their previous response that President Trump called a piece of garbage.
Okay. Well, I want to read a little bit of that to you as well. It says Iran says peace proposal includes reparations for war damage and U.S. troop withdrawal. That's where they're at, okay? That is the new proposal Iran has sent the United States. Now, here's the issue. The United States is not going to pay for this war. The United States does not want to pay for what Iran has done. So, where do we go from here? Well, here's the other issue. The United States isn't going to pay reparations, not because, did we do something wrong?
I mean, hell, man, I don't want to hear this shit. See what it's about.
Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent is urging the G7 to help the U.S. attack Iran's finances. That is escalating things. Okay, I want to read a little bit of this to you, though. Look at this right here. It says, Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent on Tuesday urged world leaders at a G7 conference to help the U.S. combat Iranian terrorism by rooting out the financing that sustains it. Bessent, in a speech to the No Money of Terror conference in Paris, laid out a new rubric for imposing aggressive and targeted sanctions. You think Iran is just going to sit back and let that happen without any recourse? Probably not. But what does this mean? Well, here's the issue. I want to read something to you. It says, point of no return. A research firm says the oil market is headed for a dire turning point by early June. We are 2 to 4 weeks away. Okay? That's where we're at. In the next 2 to 4 weeks, we are going to see our oil supply get hit. Oh, even more. I want to read something to you. Look at this right here. It says, oil prices have spiked to a 3-year high as markets weigh the severity of the supply disruptions in the Middle East. Brent crude, the international benchmark, has remained solidly above the $100 mark for most of the past month, a testament to the scale of the disruption, even as the conflict appears at a standstill for now. It says markets have been shielded from greater pain stemming from the supply disruption, largely to the U.S. and other nations drawing down their excess crude stores, or going and getting our from our Strategic Petroleum Reserve. It says, in late April, HFI predicted that the U.S. would deplete its oil stocks within 8 weeks, implying it would run out of excess supply by the end of June. That's where we're at, okay? Look at these numbers right here. The U.S. had 1.6 billion barrels of oil and petroleum products in its stocks the week ending May 8th, down 67 million from levels at the start of April. So in 1 month, we came down 67 million barrels. Okay. Again, but we had 1.6 billion barrels of oil and petroleum in its stock. Okay. It says right here, HFI research said it believes the oil market had already hit a breaking point and could eventually enter a vicious cycle where extreme supply shortages spark panic buying and hoarding. It did have a concrete price forecast, but in previous posts speculated that crude prices rising past $150 a barrel was possible. So yes, we are going to break records. The barrels lost all but guarantee a higher oil price setup. Okay. Now, I want to read you one last thing. Okay, look at this right here. It says, Trump has only one real option to slash gas prices. Now, everyone's thinking, okay, President Trump, he's going to eliminate the federal gas tax and save us the 18.4 cents, okay, 18 cents a gallon. Now, is that really going to work? Well, no. The answer is no, it's not going to work. And the reason why it's not going to work is that would bring down the cost of gas, okay? That would bring down the cost per gallon of gasoline. But if you make something cheaper, what normally happens? Okay, supply and demand here. When something becomes cheaper, more people buy it. So essentially, we are having a potential oil shortage or an oil deficit, which will likely turn into a shortage, which will then revolve into a crisis. But what we are seeing right now, the prices come down, more people buy gas. If more people buy gas, that means we need more oil. That's not the right move. So we cannot eliminate the federal gas tax. That's what experts are telling us right now. Okay, a gas tax holiday is not going to do it. It will save very little money, and some are saying it would save people like $30 to $50 over the course of the summer. $30 to $50. Not enough to move the needle to actually do something like that. Okay? Here's the next thing President Trump could do. He could ban oil exports. But that right there would make many countries furious. That President Trump pretty much stopped everything going on over the Middle East, and then he's going to ban exports from the U.S. That's going to hurt millions of people. That is going to cause a lot of problems. We could also drill more. President Trump kept saying drill, baby, drill, but that's not really happening. Okay? Not this time. We could call Saudi Arabia. We could, get that done. But again, that's not really going to move the needle. The only thing right now that is going to fix this, and it's very simple, we have to reopen the Strait of Hormuz. That's President Trump's only option at this point, because according to experts, President Trump has exhausted all options. He's called, he's talked, he's tried to do the math, figure it out. It's not working. As of right now, they say that we are potentially 2 to 4 weeks away from a major crisis. So we'll see what's going to happen, but I wanted to share this with you before it's too late. Okay? Go, and I've been recommending this for the past few days. If you haven't done so already, go and buy oil for your cars. Go get oil for your cars because you may need that very soon. Most people don't see it, but you may need oil for your cars because motor oil is already seeing a little bit of a supply chain issue. So we'll see what happens moving forward, but the one thing that I can promise you is I will be here every step of the way. And
Alright, whatever. Anyway, next video.
Will there be no fuel by July 4th? All right, guys, so on the internet, a lot of articles are popping up stating that we're going to run out of fuel or oil by July 4th. And that not so much that we're going to run out of fuel, but by then we'll be tapping in, or right before then, we'll be tapping into our reserves, our oil reserves. And so that is going to be a sign of things to come. Once we tap into that, and the Strait of Hormuz situation isn't fixed, I think we're going to see some major problems. Now, we're going to see some life and death situations. Don't know. I mean, as far as like medications and things like that being delivered or not being delivered because it's a fuel crisis, that could absolutely be a problem. But we'll get to, when we get to that bridge, we will cross it. But as far as the other things that keeps us alive, like food, water, things like that, we could run into a problem if it hits the trucker industry in the way I'm hoping it does. Now, as far as us, we're definitely going to take a hit. It's definitely going to hit our pockets even more. And in some cases, we're probably going to see gas stations running out of fuel. And then you're going to have to travel further to get more gas. Now, I live in a city, so I can definitely just park my car here, park it somewhere else, and then leave it there for the next couple of days and get to work by either walking or I would walk. I definitely wouldn't take the bus. I'm out on that nonsense. But I would walk to work. I'm 2.5 miles or 2.25 miles, from home. So I can get there. But everybody else who needs their car to get to work, that's going to be an issue for you. Now, if you live in the tri-state area, you do have train services and things like that that can get you to the city. So a lot of people do have a backup plan. Though those trains are going to be astronomically packed and insane, and there's definitely going to be a lot of fights on those things because a lot of people who take those trains are used to a calmer situation. Once you start getting crowded trains, it turns into a different animal. Anyway, the fuel problem, guys, with the food and the water and the medications and the medical gear and things like that, those deliveries can be hindered, and that can turn into a bigger problem. Now, the running out of oil for July 4th, that's here in the United States. It's also going to affect the rest of the world, but we're talking about here because, well, July 4th is also a big holiday season for a lot of beach towns and things like that. So they could see less people going to the beach or going to those towns like Wildwood or Long Island Beach in New Jersey, places like that, where they'll see less people because people can't afford the gas prices to get out there. Now, my trip from here to North Carolina, when I went to fuel up, it was $101. I've never seen $101 on a pump when filling up my truck. Never. And so when I saw it a couple of weeks ago, I'm like, and we're not even in the summer months yet. We were still in the beginning of May. So now that we are looking at this problem's going to get bad. Now, why are we running into this problem with the oil situation? Well, not stating the obvious, but the whole problem that's going on in Iran with that war, right? That staged war, if you will. But seems like Kuwait, Iraq, and Iran are producing way less oil than they normally do. Then you got the Strait of Hormuz being blocked off, and supposedly there's rumors that Iran is dumping oil into the Strait of Hormuz because they have so much of it and they don't know what to do.
So they're just polluting it. But why the fuck would they do that? That's fucking stupid as hell. If that is true, then these heathens definitely need to fucking go. They polluting the water and such. But that's something Esau, that nigga, would do. Not no towel head, but whatever. I don't know.
Which makes no sense. When I heard that, I'm like, that's dumb. Oil, if I'm not mistaken, doesn't go bad. So
yeah, I mean, they just got so much, they gonna just dump it away? Man, no.
Gasoline does, but oil doesn't, if I'm not mistaken. So why would you dump it into the Strait of Hormuz? And so some analysts are like, we're seeing oil slicks by, Iran, and we're thinking that they're dumping the oil. I'm like, that still doesn't make sense. They're dumping money in. And as soon as they figure this problem out, which when it comes to money, a lot of things can be solved and handled. Why would they throw that money into the water? Nonetheless, that's a rumor that's going on right now. But Kuwait, Iraq, and I forgot what other country that develops oil, or rather processes oil, a lot of those countries are now making less because of the war. Because one, a couple of these places were hit by drones, and they say it was Iran. I think it was Israel, and so a lot of their refineries were damaged. So now they're creating or making less oil, which now they can't deliver. And now a lot of other parts of the world are definitely going to be affected really badly by this. There are gas stations in other countries that are now shut down because there's no fuel. They had no deliveries. They're not going to get any deliveries anytime soon. The United States, the UK, the first world countries, if we will, they're going to get their oil come hell or high water. Period. But everywhere else, they're definitely going to have a problem. So, though it is not my concern, those problems are going to get worse. Now, here, people going to work, that is going to be an issue. But like I said earlier, people are going to figure out a way. Unless you live in a rural area, you live in the Midwest somewhere where you don't have a bus or train to get you to work, that's going to be another problem that people are going to have to come up with a solution. Carpooling is a solution for a lot of you guys who live out there, but I know that you do not want to drive with Weirdo Eric, right? Weirdo Eric that smells like Cheetos cheese. You don't want him in your car, but you might have to suck it up for you guys to save some money. You might. Or you guys just cut out, Smelly Eric and figure somebody else out. Nonetheless, I get why people don't want to carpool. But guys, is this going to be a dramatic end of the world scenario? No. Are we going to experience some higher prices of food, some higher prices definitely in gas? Absolutely. Are some of those beach trips you take or overnight trips going to be a little more expensive because of the gas? And hell, maybe some of those beach towns now, they're not seeing the same amount of people they were seeing before, so they raise their prices a little bit. You might see that as well. But is it the end of the world? No. Now, some of these places...
No, not yet, but it's going to get worse. And then the nukes come, and then it'll be the end of the world. The end of Esau's world. Yep. But ultimately, all this leads to them chip implants.
Are making it like it's the end of the world. Sorry. Some of the articles that are being written, I'm making it sound like it's going to be the end of the world. Oh, what are we going to do? We're going to adapt accordingly. We've been here.
Yeah, adapt till you get them chip implants. Anyway, let me get one more video. Let me slow this down before I get to this last video. I wasn't expecting the ad to come up. I wanted the video.
The data. There's too much of it.
That's okay. SaaSVIA builds models and makes decisions, so you don't have to freak out.
But we like freaking out.
We're getting so much done!
I am inside my infamous Barbie camper, the Barbie Jeep.
This custom-made pink Jeep is Molly Hightower's answer to high gas prices. It's a far cry from his Mercedes-Benz convertible. But instead of $90 to fill up with gas, he says the Barbie Jeep cost around $3.
Gas is getting too high, so I gotta do what I can. I can't do my regular cars. I gotta do my little mini cars. So if I can get $1 on pump 6, that'll be great.
Gasoline now costs an average of $4.50 per gallon, according to AAA, which is up from around $3 before the Iran war started. And Americans are looking for ways to save. Hightower is a handyman from Ellenwood, Georgia.
I had a feeling, I had a vibe. This is from Georgia, man. Ellenwood. That it's like, it's like a little. It's right next to DeKalb or Decatur.
Stuck an engine from a power washer into this broken Barbie vehicle, added a rack for groceries, and with one pull of the ripcord, he's off to the races. It's just one of his homemade mini cars.
It's actually quite easier than you would think. I started with a go-kart, then I found the Power Wheel frames, and then just kind of went to upgrading it from there as far as making the motor bigger and faster, adding lights, music, a tablet screen, everything that you
You got a tablet screen. So I guess for GPS.
pretty much seeing a real regular car.
So you got an old truck back here. Look like it's, I don't know what that is.
You can buy it and throw it in one of these and make it like a real car for you. So that's just kind of been my process throughout the whole time I've been building them.
But driving with knees up isn't for everyone.
Oh, this dude got the racing seat belts. Oh, goodness. He got AMG racing seat belts. 5 point. Shit. More like 2 point, because he ain't like, man, what's the point?
Everyone. Many Americans are choosing to drive less in their real cars while running errands.
He had to activate his GPS.
That'll be about $65.
Opting instead for public transit or staying close to home. While Hightower is choosing his own unique solution.
Yep. And Jake for you, man. Shit. I'm gonna thumbnail this. I'm gonna thumbnail that if I can find a good picture, but I don't really have a whole lot. Well, actually, I do. I got a scripture to read. Shit, because when there's a shortage on fuel and a shortage on oil, people things ain't gonna be moving anymore. Because they don't want their engine to lock up. Shit. They don't want their engine to lock up, keep riding on that same oil. And hell, they can't ride anymore when they out of fuel. Or the fuel is expensive as hell, too expensive for the drive. I'd be surprised. It'll cost Jake $20 just to fill this thing up. He said $1, so $1 no, actually $20. Hell no. He said $1. $1 gas to fill this thing up is, damn, what is that? That's like a half a gallon? I don't know. A quarter of a gallon? Something, I don't know. I can tell you shit. He got it somewhat made. Hell, I might do this. No. Shit. I don't know. I'm just thinking all kind of shit. Anyway, I want to get an electric bike, and then I want to get a go-kart, and I'm like, man, fuck all this shit. I just want to get the hell on out of here, bro. I just be wanting mercy and mercy and strength from Yahweh Shema Shah. That's it. But anyway, 2nd Ezra chapter 16. Hey, you better be hoping and praying for mercy and strength too. 2nd Ezra chapter 16 verse 17, because it got to get bad out here all around the world. Woe is me, who will deliver me in those days? And in the days we in right now is Jacob's trouble, and it's about to get bad out here. And what Ezra's had witnessed was Jacob's trouble, and he's gonna be living in that times right now, because yeah, we all reincarnated. The beginning of sorrows, great mournings, the beginning of famine and great death, the beginning of wars, race wars, civil wars, class wars, World War III, and the power shall stand in fear. The beginning of evils. What shall I do when these evils come? It's gonna get bad out here. You need to seek the Lord and repent. Take heed to what the prophets say. Behold, famine and plague, tribulation, and anguish are sent for scourges, for amendment, but for all these things they should not turn for their wickedness, nor be mindful of their scourges. Yep. So, like I said, man, seek the Lord by seeking the prophets of Yahweh Shema Shah, and take heed to what it's saying. Try to build a spiritual mental relationship with Yahweh Shema Shah by praying Yahweh Shema Shah, praising Yahweh Shema Shah, worshiping Yahweh Shema Shah, fearing Yahweh Shema Shah, and repenting to Yahweh Shema Shah. To all the men out there pushing this truth and nothing but the truth in the name, spirit, and power of Yahweh Shema Shah. Keep on preaching, keep on teaching, keep your faith and trust strong. Yahweh Shema Shah, stay humble. And for you few sisters out there, take it heed, keep your faith and trust strong. Yahweh Shema Shah. Stay humble, stay in order with your man. If you ain't got no man, stay in order. Yahweh Shema Shah. Peace and bless to the hopeful elect, and all praises to Yahweh Bahashem Yahweh Shah. Shalom.